We can implement international framework of treaties.
Staff as, elected people as well. And we're fighting for the treaty right to health, but are we willing ourselves to basically say, you know what? Say no to private insurance, no matter if it's payer of last resort or not, and we're going to stand with our people and say, we want our treaty right to health. And I'll guarantee you that when our families are as affected as our people who we are purporting to serve are affected, that we're going to be way more effective at finding solutions to those issues. So are we prepared, to basically walk our talk as our elders speak about it? Because, our elders are feeling the effects of this repeatedly. So, is that another strategy that we send to the insurance companies? Great big lobbying arms that are going to feel the effects because virtually every First Nations organization in this country has private health benefits for their staff, and a lot of our staff are included in that. So, those are all pieces that we have to consider. What are we prepared to do individually? How are we prepared to support the work of protecting the treaty right to health? And what line are we, willing to stand on? Because if we don't stand on the line now, if we don't fight the fight ongoing, there will be nothing left for our grandchildren. And, the joke was that I'm kind of sour. And I have to tell you, I've been working in First Nations health for almost 22 years now. And it just seems like if it's not one fight, it's another. But I do know that the successes that we've had is when we've worked together. When we've basically come together and said enough is enough, and we stand together as First Nations people in this particular region as a leader across Canada. I've seen it time and time and time again. And we're facing challenges in Saskatchewan. Anybody who's been to an assembly recently understands that. Staff are working through, really incredibly trying times to themselves personally. Our leaders are facing all of that. What are we prepared to do for the non-insured, for our treaty right to health? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the last sour person who's going to speak, I hope, words of wisdom from her relatives. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to thank you for your time and for listening, and I'm going to turn it over to Shirley.
Sour. Shirley Bighead.
I'm not the most sour person, and if I am, I probably learned it from Darlene. She's my grandmother, or else from Steele. I've worked with her for way too many years. So good afternoon to everybody. I'm not going to speak as long as the others have spoken. I just want to wish a good afternoon to the elders and to the senators, leaders, health directors, and the guests, and to the vice chief. I wanted to say that it was a dubious honor to be asked to speak here today on a subject that I believe is a bane of my existence as a health director. It's one that has probably created the biggest headaches, not only for me, but more particularly for our band membership and also for the leaders in our community, non-insured health benefits. You've heard today and yesterday from the service providers and the health directors up here, the effect of the cuts on everybody and on the budgets. Our leaders in Sturgeon Lake will talk to you about the impact on revenues, because that's where the funding is coming from that is picking up the slack on all of these cuts, which is very unfortunate. And I think, as was said yesterday by a very articulate and knowledgeable young man, I enjoyed listening to him, that non-insured health benefits has come to be seen as a treaty right to health, but it's not the treaty right to health. If it was, with all its limitations and its restrictions and delistings, it would be pretty sad, right? But until we buckle down and define what a true First Nation health system looks like, then it's going to be the program that fills the void. My husband, I was kind of running this by him last night, and my next comment kind of made him laugh and look at me like I'd gone insane, but I absolutely refused to speak to the number of years that I've been involved as a health director. And I started out by saying, I remember when I started in health a couple of years ago, and he said, "A couple of years ago?" And I said, "Well, yeah. I don't want to say how many years ago. It might age me." Well, and it actually was only a couple of years ago, right, Seal? We've only been at this a couple of years. Yeah. But I actually met the manager of, I was actually a band counselor. That's how I started out. And our chief at that time gave me the health portfolio, and I kind of thought he was insane because I'd worked in education for years. But I had an opportunity to meet the manager of medical transportation, and I was really hot under the collar at that point. I won't say who that individual is. That person knows who that person is, and I'm not going to identify that person by gender. My husband said not to, but and I said, that person doesn't mind because we have since become friends, even though at the time I'm sure that person would have liked to have wrung my neck, but that person didn't. But, so at the time I was informed that there was a restriction in place where our membership, if they went for a medical appointment in Saskatoon, had to wait 8 hours before they were eligible to get a meal. And I thought, what the hell is going on? This is outrageous. You know, they leave our community and they can't they can't be fed, you know, for 8 hours. So I went up one side of that person and down the other. And then it was time for lunch. And so that person said, "Well, let's go for lunch." And I said, "What? What are you talking about? You haven't been away from your office for 8 hours. You can't have lunch." You know, I did not make a fan, not at all, of that person. So that was kind of funny, wasn't it? That person. But that person, I think, likes me now. I'm not sure. Maybe that person is still holding it against me. But that was funny. But yeah, I think that out of all of the non-insured health benefits programs that we deliver in our community, all of them have talked about it, but medical transportation is the worst. It is the absolute worst program. When we took it on a couple of years ago, we did it for the convenience of our membership. We didn't want them to have to go into town, make their way in however they could, and go and pick up their little white CMA, go and get it signed, bring it back, have us send it in, and then wait 6 to 8 weeks for the little paltry check. They just didn't have the financial ability to do that. So we took it over. And the other reason that we did was we thought, well, we could build relationships. Maybe during that time we could do some health promotion with our membership as well. But that didn't happen. We ended up, really creating more hardship for our membership and making enemies and even getting yelled at in band meetings because of it. You're delivering a program where you don't set the policies or procedures. You're delivering a program where all that is set for you, and you're forcing it on your membership. And the other thing, of course, is under the taxi model, you never break even, you never surplus, you just continually deficit. And we did that, so let's be honest, for at least 20 years. So along came the van-based model, wherein we were assured that we were going to break even if we decided that we would opt into that. So we said, after 20 years of deficits, we needed some kind of relief, so why not? Let's go for it. So we'll try it out. Big surprise, we still deficit every single year. Still deficit every year. And Finney are very surprised that we're deficiting, and it can't possibly be due to the chronic underfunding, right? 16.5 cents a kilometer, that's what we get, big hairy deal. And it can't be due to their restrictive policies where it's guaranteed, when we submit all the paperwork, and there's reams of it, and I'll be nice that they're going to reject at least 20% of the invoices that we submit. For one reason or another, I don't know. I think the accountability clerks that they hired have to justify their existence one way or the other. I'm sure that's got to be the reason. So, yeah, exactly. So what do? We're caught between a rock and a hard place. We can't turn it back because, when I first started talking, I talked about the scenario where our band members have to make their way to the city on their own. Or they go to band revenue, and all of us who are familiar with band revenues know the strains on that budget already, And really, that is part of non-insured health benefits and a benefit that all of our band members are eligible for or are supposed to have an absolute right to. And we do have the poorest health status. We do have a doctor that comes in twice a month, 2 days out of every single month, which really is inadequate for an on-reserve population of our own at least 15 and maybe another 400, so 1,900 people. And we've tried to recruit more, can't do it. We can't get dentists out, optometrists, and so on. And we're too close to PA to be redesignated as a treatment center. We're only a community health center. So the possibility of getting a nurse practitioner out there to provide additional support to our doctor is not possible. So like I said, we're between a rock and a hard place and no win in terms of providing primary health care services to our band membership. And like I said, since it's a FNE program, we have to enforce their policies on our people, so that's an added bonus. And I talked earlier, since I've been in Sturgeon Lake, and I started out there, I said a couple of years ago, but that's not true. And I was actually elected, and I'm going to age myself, but let's face it, I look younger than I am. No. But in 1986, I was elected as a band counselor out there, and I was given the health portfolio, and I was made the health director and the health transfer coordinator. So I had a couple of hats that I was wearing at that time. And I've seen many changes with the non-insured health benefits program, and none of them have had a positive impact on the health status of our membership. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. And regardless of the many excellent recommendations from health experts and non-experts about prevention programming has never been high on the list of funding priorities for FNE. I'll give you an example. Very recently, we were informed by FNE that there was a large pot of funding in the area of HIV and AIDS. And that's one area that we've identified as a top priority for our community. We were told to get a proposal in immediately. There was an opportunity to access maybe $30,000 to $50,000. So we were really excited. I mean, finally, our voice was being heard, and we were going to be able to have the opportunity to implement our strategy. And a week later, we were told, oh, sorry, there is no money. Headquarters has clawed it all back. Wow. But we're still going to provide moral support. Well, the heck with that. I mean, we get all the moral support that we need and more from the province. We don't need it from FNE as well. But on a more positive note, there's been again yesterday, there was a lot of discussion about spirituality and traditional health, and that is a big part about who and what we are as First Nations people. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. And in Sturgeon Lake, we're building a traditional health system with the guidance of our elders and our traditional knowledge keepers. We hold traditional health keepers clinics 4 times a year. We have 4 season pipe ceremonies. I'm going to speed this up, talk a little faster, and actually read this and not elaborate because I'm probably running out of time, and there's still a lot more that I want to try and get through. We have facilitated opportunities for almost 20 individuals to be lifelong learners of traditional medicine. We have a traditional medicine pharmacy, which we stock through medicine gathering trips by trained medicine pickers who have also been trained in the proper protocols. We have cultural camps in the summer, a Sacred Circles camp for youth, a family camp, an annual powwow, round dances, elder involvement in all programs, an elder advisory council for the health program, our Child and Family Services Agency, the Chief and Council, and the education program. And we are going to be presenting future opportunities for building capacity with the traditional herbalists and healers. We also have teachings for the youth on the traditional roles of men and women, the traditional role of the helper, and rebuilding the traditional systems of long ago. We are revitalizing the systems that colonization destroyed. I didn't talk a lot about the non-insured health program. I spoke more on meaningful programs that speak to who and what we are as First Nations people, the basis of a First Nation health system. We are a proactive traditional community that addresses issues as they arise and strongly believe in prevention programming. And then lastly, so what do we do to ensure that the treaty right to health is honored, respected, and that a comprehensive, holistic First Nation health system is funded, which provides comprehensive health coverage for all programs and services and has, if you choose, not everybody believes as strongly as we do in traditional health, but has traditional health as the foundation. And I actually have something here, but I'm not going to say it. It's what my dad would say. And some of you know who my dad is and how he would say this, but I'm not going to say it. I should. I am proud to say, for those of you that don't know, that I am the daughter of one of the strongest fighters for a treaty that ever lived, and that's the former Chief David Hennekew. So you can probably guess. You can probably guess what he would say and in the language that he would say about suing, what he would say, sue the who, you know what he'd say. It starts with a B and ends with an S. Anyways, he spoke to me before he passed away. He passed away 4 days this month, 4 years, 4 days. 4 years ago on March the 12th. But anyways, he saw what was happening with her treaty rights and how and how the federal government was chipping away at them. How if we sat back and did nothing, that we would have nothing. He said that the time had come. Oh man, do I ever need that? He said that the time had come to take them to court while there was still something to fight for. They are international in nature. They are valid, legally binding agreements. We gave up most of Canada and the majority of our renewable and non-renewable resources for our rights. They are prepaid into perpetuity. That is what was negotiated. We paid an unreal price. There have been many court decisions that have upheld this view, and we have to capitalize on those. We can't get caught up in decisions about chem strips and methadone treatment. Those are important. They really are. But we must look at the larger picture, which is a treaty right that funds those and a lot of other programs and services. The federal government loves it when we nitpick on smaller issues and focus our time and energies in those areas. Let's quit playing into their hands and band together to fight collectively to fund the treaty battle for the full implementation of our treaties. I never want to have my children, my grandchildren, or my great-grandchildren, when I'm lucky enough to have them, ask me, why didn't you do anything to protect our treaties when you had the chance? And I sure as heck don't want to answer to my dad. Thank you.
Thank you. You can tell they really listen to me, right? They're not sour. Anyway, I think it's important we get into those groups to look at those two questions on what are the major gaps, 3 major gaps. So I think more importantly, what are sort of your 3 or 5 recommendations, top recommendations that you can think of. And so I think it's going to be distributed to the tables. So if you can grab your coffee and come back and just sit at your tables and just do the form, and that would be good. Putting Rhonda Myron and Adrian to start off first to talk about Standing Buffalo experience with long-term care and others. Yeah, so go ahead. And then I'm going to call, after them, I'm going to call on Adrian Catarath to give a youth perspective from English River, I believe. And so again, ladies, 10 minutes or so. And I'm not going to say anything to the elders because this one said she's going to hit me, so I'm not going to do it.
Good afternoon. Hello? Can you see me? I'm kind of short, so. um, oh, there we are. Okay. Our mission statement, our traditions and cultural values teach us to respect our elders. We are proud to provide a healthy, caring environment, creating an atmosphere of dignity and respect for our residents. So good afternoon. My name is Rhonda Myron. I am the Finance Human Resource Manager for the Lakeview Lodge Personal Care Home. And on behalf of the Standing Buffalo Dakota Band, we would like to thank the FSIN for inviting us today to speak to you about our 40-bed personal care home and are here to voice our concerns of the residents that depend upon NIHB for their health care coverage. We have been in operation for 14 years. Our care home is open to First Nations populations as well as non-First Nations populations. Our home consists of many different First Nations cultures, and our residents are from the many First Nations bands in Saskatchewan and one from Standoff, Alberta. Each one of our residents has so much oral history, teachings, and they share their cultural beliefs. It's our residents that make our care home culturally unique. We offer a friendly, caring, and supportive environment to our residents to make them feel at home. Our residents, many of them are elderly and can demonstrate how to live and age positively by sharing their perspectives on life and teach us what it is like to grow old. Our care home has many jurisdictional boundaries that hasn't seen no moving forward since its inception. Lakeview Lodge has no access to provincially funded programs because we are located on a reserve. We have no access to any potential residents living in a provincial city or town because their income is from the province, and the province will not pay for any person that lives on a reserve. We have to advocate for potential residents that live in urban centers. They leave their community for health reasons. Our budgets remain constantly the same throughout the years, with revenue not ever increasing, while our cost to operate keeps creating a debt for the First Nation. We receive $1,600 per resident from Aboriginal Affairs. We've been asking for an increment year after year, and it's always the same answer. We get paid the top rate for a personal care home above their provincial social policy. The elders that are age 65 and over must pay first with their pensions, and Aboriginal Affairs tops this amount up to $1,600. These amounts are almost at a par value. It's always a struggle to provide basic needs for our residents, such as groceries, utilities, and even our everyday activities. Yes, there is a gap that exists socially and economically and jurisdictional. There is no funding available for long-term care on a reserve. There are 6 other First Nation care homes in Manitoba that receive both provincial and federal funding, and we're in the process of negotiating those types of agreements. We are very grateful that we receive services from the File Hills Qu'Appelle Tribal Council. These services Services include our weekly visiting on-site nurse practitioners that assist and provide the medical attention to our residents and reassure the families that our home can provide the primary health care needs. We also receive home care services. Our staff is wonderful in providing quality care that exceeds licensing requirements through interaction, daily living needs, and giving each resident a place to call home. Most of our staff does this at minimum wage. We also receive continuous support from the leadership of Standing Buffalo and receive secondary health services and programs from the health clinic. The band provides monetary cash flow injections to ensure our residents continue to have a home. Each resident receives their own spending money from Aboriginal Affairs or from their First Nation in the amount of $115 a month. This goes towards any personal expenses that may incur. Drug coverage that is not covered by non-insured health benefits must be paid from each resident's personal account. Special equipment they need are not approved because the residents live in our care home. Lakeview Lodge is considered as a third party with NIHB program and does not reimburse claims for payments made by a third party such as a band office, health center, or a residential facility. Therefore, they will not directly pay to the home of any expenses that incur on behalf of a resident. A resident was admitted to us last December. A request was made by our local pharmacy on January 22nd and was not approved until February 8th. This process took 17 days for an approval. The resident needed tube feed formula and could not go without. We have purchased this for him and submitted the bills to NIHB. They did not pay because we were considered a third-party facility. In the end, the resident ended up incurring the cost. The formula he needed to eat was $135 per week. This totaled $1,080. So because of that, he has no comfort fund. So once again, thank you to the FSIN for hosting this long-awaited forum. I always call Kyle Pretty Shield and harass him for for coverage for our residents and why the chiefs are not involved in this process, but I'm pleased that these days are coming. And please continue to fight for our treaty rights, our health benefits, and restoral. So now I would like to introduce our supervisor. Her name is Adrienne. She is our nurse for the care home. She works directly with our nurse practitioners and pharmacy and has better knowledge of NIHB and how it directly impacts our residents. Miigwech.
Good afternoon. How is everybody? Good. I was just trying to see if you were awake or if everybody was Facebooking on their cell phones there. So just to talk about what Rhonda had talked about, our Lakeview Lodge is a personal care home. We're not a long-term care home, but we're a private care home dealing specifically with First Nations and their needs. My name is Adrienne Sparvier. I'm the nursing supervisor at Lakeview Lodge. And just to give you a little bit more of what we do there, we're a 40-bed facility. We're located on the Standing Buffalo First Nation in the Qu'Appelle Valley. Our goal at Lakeview Lodge is to bring a holistic approach to healthcare while merging our traditional values and culture of our First Nation people. We're one of a kind in Saskatchewan, and we like to say that we give them a warm, caring environment to adapt to the new health regimes of Western medicine. So we currently have a residency of 37 residents at the moment. Our youngest resident is 20 years old. Our oldest is 98. We are not only unique in the diversity of our ages, of the ages in our home, but we are unique, like I said, there's no other private care home on First Nation in Saskatchewan. Rhonda talked a little bit about there is 6 First Nations private care homes in Manitoba, and I just couldn't wrap my head around why is this not happening in Saskatchewan. There's definitely a need for it. So coming to assemblies like this is we're trying to get out there what Lakeview Lodge is bringing to our First Nation people, and we hope that with these kind of assemblies that we will motivate some of the other First Nations to look into private care home on their First Nations. We like to help all of our residents at the home to be as self-sufficient as they can. Simple things such as handles beside the toilets, a raised toilet seat, a SAS pole to help them get in and out of bed. This special equipment is not only for their safety, but for the safety of our residents as well when they assist. All of these are available through NIHB, but we have ran into some roadblocks as our residents are not at their own home. So NIHB, we get the prescription, they say yes, and then once they find out that we're in the private care home and not in their own home, they say no, which is completely ridiculous to me because they're already 1 foot into long-term care, being in a private care home. They're not going to be able to go back home, even with these special needs equipment. We've been told this on numerous occasions from NIHB, and we are glad to hear that the FSIN was looking into NIHB, and we're proud to be a part of the assembly here. As it's inevitable, some of the residents that we have, their mobility and their health gradually deteriorate. Residents that were once capable of getting out of bed on their own to use the washroom may have difficulty from time to time and could benefit from a SAS pole to help continue with their independence. And again, the roadblock, we aren't able to get those SAS poles because they live in our home. So not only does this resident not able to get in and out of bed when they want, but now they become more incontinent. They can't get to the bathroom when they want. So now they're more dependent on the system. They need the incontinent pads. We need to wait for approval, and it just goes on and on. It's not only time-consuming to wait for this approval, but what gets me is the frustration of our residents. We're trying to provide care for them, and we're looking to different avenues to help them, and we feel sometimes that we're not doing our job as best as we can because NIHB won't help us. We did have one resident who desperately needed a SAS pole and a raised toilet seat. He was very adamant to keep his own toileting to himself. He was a very personal man, and we wanted to help him with this. So we explained to him exactly what NIHB told us. He wasn't allowed to have a SAS pole or a raised toilet seat as long as he lived with us. Well, he was from the reserve, so he moved home. He applied for his SAS pole, he applied for his raised toilet seat. He got them, and the day he got them, he moved back into our home and he brought them with him. A few of our other residents came to us after hip surgery. They needed the usual aids, like I've already stated, for their own safety as well as our staff. They left the hospital with a prescription and an explanation of how to use a raised toilet seat, how to get a SAS pole put in your bathroom. Excuse me. They could also benefit from handrails in the washroom. All these things were written for them in a prescription. They left feeling confident that they were going to be able to heal properly in a timely fashion and do things that they were able to do previously to having a broken hip. Well, they came to our home, and unfortunately we had to tell them again, sorry, these are not available because you live in our private care home. We have another resident who was in an accident. Rhonda talked about him earlier, that he had a special diet requiring him to eat through a G-tube in his abdomen. He's a young gentleman, and he's from the Standing Buffalo First Nation. So you can imagine his want to come home, to be that close to home, to his people and his family. He was admitted to us in December when trying to receive the same diet. He was a member at the Wascana Rehab Center in Regina. He had already been approved for his milk. He was receiving his milk while in the Wascana Rehab. And being that he was able to be in our care, our level of care, we brought him home, seeing no issues in any kind of funding for any kind of milk because it was already approved. He was already getting it. So, like Rhonda said, we waited until February. It was 3 months we waited, accumulating $1,100 deficit for this milk. We did not change the kind of milk he drank. We did not change the amount that he was taking on a weekly basis. The only thing that changed is he wasn't in the Wascana Rehab anymore. He was home on First Nation land. After a battle we won, he is at home with us now, and he is proud to say that not only his family on Standing Buffalo, but our Lakeview Lodge staff is also his family. Another client of ours had some serious cancer problems, which left him with a colostomy bag. We then had to wait for approval to receive this colostomy bag, and in my mind I thought, we already knew the surgery was going through. We already knew he was going to be getting a colostomy bag. Why didn't we put in for prior approval before? So now we have a gentleman that has a colostomy bag, and he's waiting for approval to wear it. Needless to say, we did get our approval after many weeks of waiting, and when we received our colostomy bags, we went through them faster than the suggested time of the NIHB, and we had to wait again until we were allowed more, which was, how do you explain that to a 7-year-old gentleman that, first of all, doesn't know what a colostomy bag is, let alone tell him, well, you can't have any more until NIHB says, okay, we can give you some more. When speaking to the nurse at the ostomy clinic where he went through his surgery, she told me about other First Nation people that were also having the issues with NIHB. And I told her, well, I would like to know if there's anybody at NIHB that has colostomy bags, and if they change it as much as these people say they should be changed. It's hard to say you should only be using this much when you yourself don't even know how it is to experience that. She also told us that other clients, colostomy clients that weren't receiving benefits through NIHB were allotted a lot more bags and a more longer time frame. She apologized and helped us with some other trial bags while we awaited approval again. So this gentleman is still with us at the home, and still on occasion he removes his bag when he's not supposed to. But what if he wasn't in our home? What if he didn't have someone to address these concerns on his behalf? It was then I realized just how important our home is to these people. There are a few other residents and a lot of other issues that I can talk about, but I don't want to reiterate what has been spoken in the last 2 days. All of those things affect us. Incontinent products, glucose strips, everything, ambulance costs. We have one gentleman that, like I stated earlier, a few pieces of equipment would make his life more self-sustainable. He would feel more better about himself because he was doing his own care. Things that we take for granted, like going to the washroom. This gentleman is a double amputee which means he has no legs. He can do everything else for himself, except for get up and go to the washroom like we can. So he uses what we call a urinal cup. It's a cup with a handle on it so that he can use the washroom at his convenience while he's sitting in his chair. And when he was admitted to us, he came to us with a bottle already. And so after a few months of him being in our home, we decided, well, maybe we should get him a new one. So we got him a new one. We got the prescription from the doctor. We waited for approval, and we got that call from NIHB again. Sorry, you're only approved for a urine bottle once in your lifetime. But we were glad to hear it wasn't because he was at our home. So like I said earlier, I can reiterate all the same issues, but I won't. I'm not here to take up your time and discuss all the issues we have at our home, but I did want to touch on the ones that have taught me the most about how NIHB works and how it affects our residents at the lodge. We are here because we are in the gray area. We fall between the cracks with federal and provincial, and nobody wants to deal with us because we're one of a kind. I'm here to speak to all you leaders and hopefully bring some understanding of how important this is to our people, how important this home is. I have worked in health regions and long-term care facilities, but no other job has touched my heart the way this job does. One of my own biggest motivations of why I became a nurse were my grandparents. They passed away from diabetes and heart disease. I feel that if there was an understanding about Western medicine and healthcare, that they could trust it, that they may still be with us today. To them, the doctor was another white man controlling them. This made them non-compliant in their medical regime and their medical treatments. So many of our residents that we have come to us with the same mentality. But with our hard work and our compassion, our determination, and a whole lot of humor, these people adapt to living with us and become compliant with their medications and their treatments, therefore giving them not only more time with us here and their families, but also a living environment where they feel safe and cared for. I am looking for support in this ongoing struggle and hope to eventually inspire other First Nations to look into investing in our elders' health. I am proud to say that I work at this lodge as it's the implementation of a vision of health to deinstitutionalize health care services and increase investments in community-based care while restructuring the delivery of primary and secondary health services. Our home would then enable the most vulnerable First Nation member to attain a quality of life within a culturally familiar, I can't say it right, environment which meets their care requirements. So with that, I'd just like to say how important it is for all of us to be here, and I challenge every one of you First Nation leaders to continue to battle for our treaty rights along with our health care, and I will continue to battle for my home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhonda and Adrian. Now I'm going to call another Adrian, Adrian Catarat from the Buffalo River Dene Nation.
Oh my God, I'm short. Hi, everybody. My name is Adriana Catarat, and I am from Buffalo River Dene Nation. I'm 16, and I am here today to do a presentation on traditional medicine. I'm kind of nervous, and my voice will probably go a little shaky, but I'll try my best. I'm gonna start off with rat root. Rat root is used for clearing nasal and respiratory passages, toothaches, burns, and helping the mind to stay alert. You can make tea with the rat root, and that's what helps the nasal clearing and respiratory passages, and you can rub the boiled rat root on your burn and it'll help to heal. And for the toothache, you just chew on a rat root. You can find this rat root on a wet soil and on a muskeg. And next one is cranberries. It's all dried up. Cranberries is used for a urinary tract infection. It is also used for eczema. For the tract infection, you boil fresh or even frozen cranberries, and it will eventually turn to juice, and you drink it. For eczema, you rub fresh cranberries on the eczema and leave it on for half hour or less. Cranberries can be picked in the fall. Okay, the next one is cedar. Cedar is used for purification, and to attract positive energy, feeling, emotions, and for balance in your life. Cedar is often called the tree of life. Cedar has also been used as a natural antibiotic to treat various infections. The next one is white flower. White flower is used for nosebleeds or even cuts. It'll help to stop the bleeding. They grow in the summertime, and you can find them almost everywhere you go. Okay. Next one is sweetgrass. Sweetgrass is used for cleansing yourself. If you're feeling sad or mad, or if you have a lot of weight on your shoulders, you can smudge yourself and you'll feel a lot better. You can also use sweetgrass for prayers and blessings. You can find sweetgrass in the prairies. Okay, next one is muskeg tea. It is used for flus and for your kidney. You boil it, and from inhaling the steam from the tea, it can also help clear congested nasal passages. Okay, there's mint tea. Mint tea is used to treat indigestion, nausea, diarrhea, colds, headaches, cramps, and it also cures hiccups. You can find this mint tea in the moist area, like on the side of a stream. Can't even see mint tea, rarely. Next one is tobacco. Tobacco is used to offer Mother Earth when taking medicine or when you hunt. Tobacco is also used for earaches. You chew the tobacco and put it in a cloth and squeeze the liquid into your ear, and it would help your earache. Next one is cone spruce. Cone spruce is used for canker sores. You boil it and it will eventually turn to juice. Rinse your mouth with it, and when a baby gets a sore in their mouth, mothers usually put the boiled pine cone water on a wet cloth and hold it softly on their sore, and it would help to take away the pain, and it will eventually take your sore away. Okay. Next one is spruce gum. Spruce gum is used to keep your teeth healthy, strong, and clean. You can find the spruce gum on a spruce tree. Is there any questions? No? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to my presentation. It was a great honor to be here.
I guess on behalf of our group here, the leadership and all those in the room, we want to acknowledge and thank you so much for showing us and for learning and also teaching what's readily available on our lands, on Mother Earth. Thank you so much for the courage to come and speak in front of us as you have in your communities. And please don't stop, continue, because this is what we need and this is what we're all about. Thank you.
Okay. I had to look at them because I wasn't sure I get thrown something or what. But anyway, Senator James Burns, and after him will be Senator Noel Starblanket. These are they're leaders, they're senators, and I have a special respect for veterans who actually started the provincial organization, a lot of the First Nations movement across Saskatchewan and across Canada as well. So with that, James.
Exercise. Tansik na tamskat no kakyo. Nuago maganak. Metrekos kom goan no se pe tos ngoyan hada pix ko no moten tegone pakse ngoin. Ego nan pe payan. So I greet you all as my friends, family. I was sitting over there falling asleep and they come and gave me a nudge. He said, "We want you to go up there." Yeah. And I was kind of scared. But I'm never nervous. I have two questions that have been given to me, and they're very simple. So I'll either give you the short version of my answer or a long version. But I know in the past, it says, what are your experiences with healthcare systems? Wow. That's a loaded question when it comes to being an Indian. Some of the things that I've experienced is that when I was a kid in the 50s, there used to be this big truck that used to come around on Treaty Day. Some of you will remember. Gave us chest x-ray to see if we had tuberculosis. And then we had the nurse who gave you a needle. Then you had a little pharmacy on the reserve that gave out Band-Aids and aspirin. That was kind of my introduction to a healthcare system on the res. But the biggest healthcare system that I had and recognized was if you were ill, Kusiar old ladies will cure you and will make you healthy. Anak say no topics cause as mo go ask tamatson. Go talk to that elderly man over there if you're not feeling good, a therapist. And as we evolved in my growing up years, our traditional medicine people were being condemned in a very subtle way by the nurses in our community. Because we had community nurses that came in. And they said that their medicines was better than ours. I heard that. When I think back of it today, how awful that was for the European medicine to overtake ours. That was that sort of the healthcare system, as I understood it. And there was two of them. But the better one was the Indian one. And this young lady, I commend her for taking the time to learn about the herbs, medicines that are out there. Within the Prince Albert Tribal Council, we had some people that went out. I don't know how long they took a course in getting to know Indian medicines from people that knew which medicines were for what. I want to share a story with you that happened in my family. I come a long line of boarding school residential survivors. My uncle came back from boarding school as a young man, healthy, figured, but he got sick. He went to the doctor in Melfort. and he was diagnosed with kidney problems. And they tried to doctor him in town. So the doctor said, Edward, you're going to have to go home and die. I can't take care of you. I can't treat you. I can't make you healthy. So he went home to the reserve. Couldn't even hardly get up. He stayed in bed. Was starting to lose his ability to talk, think. His granny came over, looked at him. Haamatin nossim, nagutsita kanatawitan. My grandchild, I'd like to take the opportunity to see if I can doctor you. So she proceeded to go and get whatever herbs she needed and prepared them. And as my uncle's story goes, he said the old lady put a pail of water by his bed, hot water. He didn't say how big the pail was. And gave him that medicine in his hand. He said, put this medicine into water. If the medicine takes off in that water with the cycle of the sun, that's what's going to heal you. So he did that. Leaned over on his bed and put that medicine in water. And that water took off the direction of the sun. So he took that medicine every day. He didn't say how long. Took that medicine and began to heal. Pretty soon he was walking. And he was healthy now again. So he went back to Melfort to town to go get something. And he met his doctor. And his doctor said, hey, I thought you'd be dead. No, I'm okay. What did you do? Oh, my granny gave me medicine to heal. So the doctor says, could you tell your granny what kind of medicine she used so I will know? Okay, he says. So he goes home. No come. Maskigiwan no textkate gigon baski gyagimian. My granny, that doctor in town wants to know what kind of medicine you gave me. The old lady looks at him. Ito kay nami ammonia win the sonia gatak. She said, I guess I will give a white man to make money off my medicine, she said. You know, and those are the things that we have had. And I want to say that a lot of our medicines are coming back. Like this young lady beginning to learn is a beginning of a process, a beginning to get back those medicines we need in our own healthcare system. That's the traditional side. We're going through a lot of people going to ceremonies, sweat lodges, fasting, ceremonies of the lodges, and beginning to understand and getting back through the spiritual guidance of these medicines. We're going to get there. As the prophecies have said, for 7 generations we will just about lose everything, losing our language. That's why I'm proud to speak Cree, because I think better in Cree. I have a problem when I try and think in English, I lose myself. Then I got to go back to Cree and find myself. Kepata head. And that's how I think. And so these visions, like through dreams you get these ways of doing things. We're getting that back. Because in this last 7 generations, which we are probably in the 8th, 9th, 10th generation, we're starting to get all these back. We'll get them back after the first 7 generations. We'll get them back in the next 7 generations. So we're setting the stage right now. We're beginning a process that needs to happen. We can't be impatient. The next question is, how do we move forward? I'm going to go home. Yeah. I'm going to go and spend some time at home. I haven't been home for a while. I go all over the place. Like my learned friend over here, boy, he taught me a lot. Where do we go? It's a very, very honest question. Where have we been? I was involved in the 70s as a leader in my community. And I also seen the organization of the Federation of Saskatchewan Indians being the power base of treaties. I seen the National Indian Brotherhood being the power base of our treaties. I am proud to say that Noel Star Blanket was at that time, was you a president at that time of the National Indian Brotherhood? We had people like Dave Hennique, Saul Sanderson, and me. No, just kidding. And so, as chiefs, we were always well informed. And that's another thing I wanted to say. I commend you people that are here and stayed here, because we're not quite done yet. When we used to have chiefs meetings, we didn't go from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We started at 8 and we quit at 11 at night most times. When we were in a tribal council, or at that time as district chiefs, we used to sit till 5 in the morning strategizing, looking for ways in how we can protect our treaty rights. We need to go back to those days. We need to train our young leaders to be resilient and to take up the task of understanding what we need to do. The FSI, with its organization, we were known as hard-working people, and we took the lead in many events that had to protect treaties. We were the leaders, and I believe we can build that kind of develop again. But we need to really, really think about how much are we committed, like the good old days. We are still around as old fellas to help you, because we had our senators at that time, like Alan Hennique, Angus Morasti, John Skiboss. Throughout the province, we had these senators that drove us as young leaders to get the job done. And they didn't just ask you, they told you what you needed to do to protect our rights. We need to go do that to move forward. Yes, we can cry and bellyache about all the policies that's coming down and regulations, but like the